Alright, so let's see if I've got this straight. There is non-binary, intergender, agender, xenogender, bigender, pangender, gender fluid, gender flux, demigender, genderqueer, amalgagender, two-spirit, and several others which are all cataloged very neatly on the Gender Wiki online. Hopefully that clears it up for you. Thanks for watching. So let's be honest. For those of you who are not transgender, who are completely mystified by the waves and waves of transgender identities that are floating around in the world now, let me simplify it for you. Let me put all transgender people into 3 categories. 3. You only need to know 3 transgender categories. So let's start off with homosexual transgenders. These are people who are gay, who are not comfortable being gay. For example, if you're an extremely effeminate man, you might decide to go through a gender transition to become a woman, and then you can date men more easily. This is something that's much more common in countries where it is illegal to be gay for reasons that are painful and obvious. But it's also something that I see in the United States that happens a little more frequently than perhaps it should. Some people who are homosexual transgender people simply want to transition because they think it makes their life easier. Fair enough. You do you. But some of them are people who feel a deep sense of discomfort with their sexual orientation, and that's painful. That's sad. My fear is that in the younger generation, there's a lot more of this happening because our society has been so saturated with trans news and trans information and trans talking points. And people aren't as aware these days, especially in younger generations, that butch lesbians are a thing. And effeminate gay men are also a thing. And I would hate for young, budding, butch lesbians who are just starting to figure out, hey, I'm attracted to girls, to feel pressured to identify as transgender when they're really not. Sometimes you're just butch, and I've known some really beautiful butch lesbians in my life, and I think the world would lose a lot of its color and vibrancy if they weren't around. I've seen effeminate men complaining that they are being told that they're transgender when they're not. They're just effeminate men. And I'm sure that this is happening to masculine girls as well. It is very unhealthy. People should just be allowed to be. There's a thing in the transgender community called an egg, and an egg is someone who just hasn't figured out that they're transgender yet. I spent a very long period of my life being an egg because I knew something was going on with me, but I had no idea what, and it didn't occur to me that it was being transgender for a really long time. The reason eggs exist is because of transgender category number 2, which we'll get into in a second, but people need to realize that if a person is going through an egg phase, that's basically just a questioning phase. They're figuring out their gender identity. They're figuring out their sexuality. Give people a little time and space to do that, okay? Don't go shoving it down their throat. A person's sexuality, be they straight, gay, trans, you name it, it's a very personal thing. And as you're growing up and as you're getting to know yourself, this is something that you're going through. Every teenager goes through this. Asexual teenagers go through this. You have to figure out you. Give folks a little space. Give them a little time. Back off. Stop telling them that they're trans when maybe they're just butch. Category number 2. Autoheterosexuals. It is a universal, unspoken rule in the transgender community that you never, ever talk about autogynephilia, or its female counterpart, autoandrophilia. I'm an autoandrophile. And because people never talk about it, people like me end up living for years or even decades with no idea what is going on with us. We know it's something, but we don't know what. Frequently, we're very confused, and in my case, and I think the case of many other autoandrophiles and autogynephiles, we're deeply ashamed of what's going on with us. We don't get it. No one's talking to us about it. No one says anything about it. A search on the internet is not going to give us any information about it. Something's not right. It's confusing and it's scary. And I think that it is well past time that the transgender community admitted that we exist. The third category is where things get interesting. I think the majority of people that you see being vocal about being transgender fall into this third category. And these are the non-binary, the genderqueer, the whatever. There's a lot of different words that they use. Instead of using all of those words, it's a lot easier to understand the third category by a few different subtypes. Subtype number 1. People who haven't figured out that they're trans yet. There are a lot of people in this world who are transgender who, just haven't quite put the pieces together. Probably because you don't talk about autogynephilia. So they're sitting around very confused, slightly ashamed perhaps. I was big on the shame personally. Trying to figure out just what the heck is going on with them, and so they kind of dip their toe in the water of the trans community by saying, I think I might be genderqueer. That's a thing. That's a very real thing. Again, give people time, give people space, let them figure themselves out. Don't rush things. It's not good for them. The second subset is people who have a mental illness. And I know a lot of people raise their hackles when they hear, there's any kind of mental illness involved in the trans community. But let's be very, very honest. Mental illness plays a role in the trans community. There are a lot of people who are mentally ill, who are trying to find solutions to their problem, who are saying, hey, you know what, maybe I'm trans. And this is something that we are seeing in teenage girls on a massive scale. There are a lot of teenage girls who are starting to develop secondary sexual characteristics like big breasts and curves, and they're getting alarmed by these changes. They want to just go about living their lives. They don't want to be women. This is all just kind of crazy and weird. It's too many changes. It's happening too fast. And then they hear about being transgender and they think, maybe that's me. There are teenage girls who start to feel the emotional roller coaster that puberty is and think, you know what, I'm up, I'm down, I'm happy, I'm sad, I burst into tears for no reason. What is going on with me? Maybe I'm transgender. And then there are people who have very serious mental illnesses who don't know what else to do. Maybe they're bipolar. Maybe they have borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder, by the way, it causes a very unstable sense of self, which plays really, really well into the transgender narrative. It's really easy for a person with borderline personality disorder to look at their symptoms and say, maybe I'm transgender. Or at the very least, genderqueer, non-binary, agender, trigender, you get the picture. The third subset, narcissists and people who want attention. We'll start with the people who want attention. Teenage girls again. You want to fit in with your friends, you want to be special, you want people to like you, all that stuff. You want to show mom and dad that you're not like them. Yeah, you guys get the idea. This happens. This happens. Don't pretend this doesn't happen. And then there are narcissists who really love having power. Pay attention to me. I'm special. I'm different. If I want to use your bathroom, I'm gonna use your bathroom. You'd better call me by my pronouns or else. Are they real pronouns or are they pronouns that I made up? Call me glasses self, or else you're not respecting my pronouns. Narcissists in the trans community are a thing. It's sad and it's unfortunate, but it's a reality of the trans community. There are going to be narcissistic people who identify as trans. And some of them are genuinely transgender because narcissists happen in every tier of society. And some of them are narcissists who look at the transgender story, the transgender framework, and say, I want to get on that ride. And the last subset of the third category, we don't know. Are there people who are genuinely two-spirit or genuinely non-binary or genuinely both genders? I don't know. We haven't studied it. We haven't looked into it. We don't have any kind of sociological or sexological information on this concept, which makes it a little bit confusing when people like Trudeau are saying things like this. I would repeat that if I could figure out how to say it, because I can't say it. I get it wrong every time, and apparently he got it wrong a few times too. This is alphabet soup. It's a lot easier to understand the transgender community when you divide them into these 3 subcategories. So hopefully this helps clear up what the transgender community is and all the different types of transgender there are. Namely, 3. There are 3. I know this might upset a lot of people who are transgender, and I'm sure it's going to upset a lot of transgender allies. But this is the best I've been able to figure out. If you can explain to me some way that I'm wrong, using, facts, data, science, that would be fantastic. Because right now I'm looking at autoheterosexuality, which is the most taboo thing in the transgender community, and I know that's what's going on with me. And it's probably going on with a lot of transgender people. One estimate that I heard is that as many as 3/4 of transgender people in the United States are autoheterosexuals. So we're definitely out there. But I see how a lot of people would find that offensive. Because, after all, you don't talk about autoheterosexuals. Hope you guys like this video, and I'll be posting more soon.